Mitch, Brian, welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I have been sort of following you and a fan of you guys for quite a long time. I think you have just done such an amazing job with the not only your facility, which is absolutely beautiful, but your branding and just the way you seem to run this business. So before we get into all of that kind of stuff, tell us how you guys decided to start a machine shop in the first place.
Go ahead. A lot of times we say ignorance. Mitch and I, we both grew up near the Seattle, Washington area in a small town called Puyallup. But we both grew up around the racing industry. We raced cars, started racing go-karts from at a very young age and moved up through the ranks and eventually got into the midgets and sprint cars. So 2006, I moved to Indianapolis to kind of pursue that as trying to be a race car driver. Mm-hmm. And along the way through racing, I was a fabricator. So I worked for a really good fab shop that kind of was my college education in fabrication out in Puyallup at a shop called J&L Fabricating. And cool. Was just around building things and just really learned a lot of skills with that. And then when I moved out to Indianapolis, worked for Beast Race Cars that built the midget and sprint car chassis. Mm. And through the years, as we got racing more and we both kind of got banged up, we're coming to an end of our racing career. And I was at that time working at the IndyCar Experience that has a 2-seater IndyCar that gives rides. Oh yeah. And they had a couple Haas machines and never was able to run them, but just kind of around them a little bit and looking at them, I thought, man, those are pretty cool. And of course, on the race cars, there's a ton of machine parts. And of course, so I kind of thought that'd be, a way to kind of stay involved with racing a little bit. And so I kind of started looking around the area, thinking of something I could do. I mean, I always wanted to start maybe a fab shop or something, but the CNC machines just were very intriguing to me. And so I think it was the winter of 2013, called up Mitch and was talking to him about trying to start something. And mm-hmm. He had gotten hurt racing sprint cars on the West Coast that year. So I think he was ready to start something else in his life. And I told him about the CNC machine idea, and he said, "Well, that sounds like something we could, make a business of." And
right. So
he decided to drive back to Indy about the next week, I think it was. Mm-hmm. He decided to drive out to Indy and said, "Well, let's drive around, look at some shops, and talk to some people." And some of the people I knew around the area and in the racing industry mostly. Mm-hmm. To see if they'd have some work that we could at least get going with. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, he spent about a week out here. I had driven for Davey Hamilton, driving sprint cars for him at the time. He ran multiple Indy 500s and very successful in racing. Yeah. But he had a shop in Pittsburgh, Indiana, that he had his hospitality unit in for his IndyCar team. And so we were able to make a connection with him and sublease part of that shop to get started.
Oh, very cool.
So nice Mitch went back home and sold his house and
so I'd worked for our family business for full time for 15 years and off and on the last 3 years because I went on some smaller endeavors on my own back in Washington. But our family did site development and underground utilities with heavy equipment. So nothing associated with machining. But I did get a first-hand education on how to run a business, how to grow businesses, and how to work with strong-minded people and place them to where they can be successful. Our family always strived to supply their people with first-class facilities and equipment so they could be successful at their portion of the business. Mm-hmm. And then another first-hand education I had was doing business with your brother, because I brag all the time. Our dad and uncle, I witnessed them for 18 years in the first 18 years of my career, and I don't think I ever saw him in an argument.
Right.
So everybody asks us, what's it like being in business with your brother? And it's like, it's for the most part pretty easy.
Nice.
We complement each other from a skills standpoint, very differently. And then from a talent, from what we do within the business, we complement each other with very different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
But ideologically, we're very much in the same direction.
Sounds like some great role models. Because
yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's family or close partners, I know, not a lot of businesses can survive that long and have it be harmonious and generally work out well. So good for you guys. How do you guys divide sort of who does what in the business?
Definitely more on the technical side. I mean, like when we started, I learned how to run the CAD and CAM systems and learn how to run the machines.
Mm-hmm.
We bought our first 2 Haas machines, and neither one of us even ever turned a CNC machine on. So, we were, drinking from a fire hose, so to speak, when we started on not just the business, but then learning how to even, make a part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my role is kind of from the beginning was, programming, running the parts, and Mitch has kind of always been more on the business development side and on that, side of the fence. So like he said, I think it's a good complement of how we run the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sublease some space. Did you buy the 2 machines right off the bat to get started?
We financed them, understanding that cash flow is very key in growth of a business and
sure
getting struggling through the first few years. So we financed as much as we could possibly finance. Anytime we had an opportunity to finance something, we'd finance it to keep our cash as flush as possible and as useful as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started off with a Haas VF2 and a ST20 lathe. So
sure.
When we started, we didn't want to, we wanted to have both capabilities between milling and turning, to capture any opportunities that we can get. We didn't want to have to, turn something down because we didn't, buy one or the other.
Mm-hmm. And how did you go? So it sounds like did you get some offload work from that racing shop, and where did your work come from in the early days?
Yeah, we thought, we kind of had, a plan, with some of the people that we talked to that said, yeah, you get machines and I got, this much work I could probably give you. And so we thought that was going to be a good start, and machines showed up and we kind of stopped by everybody and said, hey, we got our machines now, and what do you got? And I don't know that any of them followed through.
Oh man.
So, but no, there was a few, still a few contacts that I had, through living here that came through. A couple carbon fiber shops that we worked with that really trusted us at the beginning, and kind of got us our start at least.
Mm-hmm. Was that making molds, or were you actually cutting carbon fiber? Or
no, just doing some mold work. Right. At the time, the IndyCar series, they went, I think Honda and Chevrolet, they allowed them to have their own body kits.
Okay.
So that really helped, some of the carbon fiber shops in the area. Mm-hmm. And we were able to do, a lot of different molds for that.
Got it. And you were just learning on the job, just figuring out how to turn them on and program and everything.
I mean, I'd done a lot of manual machining with the race car stuff, growing up and through the years. Okay. But yeah, with the CNC stuff, it was just a lot of YouTube, a lot of, asking questions with some of our vendors, and a lot of trial and error for sure. Mm-hmm. A lot of late nights. Yeah.
I can remember when we started our shop, we started with actually 2 mills, but or actually started with 1 and then bought a second one maybe a year later. But I remember all-nighters and trying to get jobs finished. You were confident you were going to get it done, but something came up and imploded your whole progress. So yeah, those are.
I think our very first job, we actually, in our building complex we were in, there's a manufacturer's rep that would go out and find some work, and he was actually our very first job that we got. But we were making something on the lathe, and we were there at, I think, midnight trying to figure out, getting a good surface finish on a bore or something like that. And I was changing an insert out and broke the head of the screw off.
Oh no!
And it was just one of those moments where it's like, we're trying to get going and doing our first part, didn't know what we were doing. And we just kind of had to laugh at that time because I remember Mitch said, "Boy, I'm glad that was you and not me," because he knew I'd have been pissed.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, funny, good stories. So then you obviously kept getting some work. So Mitch, you went out just sort of hitting the streets and just trying to find customers to work with.
Yeah, occasionally it was both of us. I mean, I'm literally, new to the area, new to the industry. I mean, completely foreign for myself. And, Brian had lived in the area for, almost 10 years previously, but, pretty isolated to the motorsports industry. And
right.
that only reaches so far. And so, I mean, we were as desperate enough to just literally go into Google Maps and look for businesses that maybe might need machine work,
right,
and call them up, knock on the door, things of that. But, I did a little bit of that. And then obviously, locating vendors and things like that, partners to help us work with, and just networking all around as much as we could.
Yeah.
But through attrition and just not giving up and keeping, putting everything we had back into the business and not drawing a paycheck or any income out of it for quite a few years, we're able to kind of just keep motoring along and build up a reputation of being able to deliver on tight deadlines and complex parts. And Brian's talented as anybody else that we still currently have in the shop. Still solves a lot of the shop floor problems when nobody else can.
Right.
So we just developed a few relationships. And then once we built that confidence up with some of our vendors, like our machine tool sales guy, he threw us a bone every once in a while. And then, as relationships just start to develop, we were able to do some work for CNR Racing, which does the cooling systems for most of the major motorsports series in the industry. And they were doing job shop work and kind of phasing out of that and just wanted to concentrate on the cooling systems.
Got it.
So we took over a lot of their existing customers, and but the manager there reached out to numerous different machine shops that they'd worked with, and none of them could really perform. Or whether it was late delivery, not hitting the tolerances, not communicating very well, and so we we're ready when we had the opportunity to capitalize on it.
Right.
So I think we were pretty rough for the first 3 years of our existence. I think it was 3 years before we even hit $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Just starting from nothing. And like I said, just overcoming all the obstacles that we had to overcome with obscurity and new area, new business. Just everything was overwhelming between having to learn how to actually operate the machines, program the machines, learn a new area. Just, the cards were stacked against us, so to speak, but it was the hand we dealt ourselves, and we were committed to overcoming it and not failing. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of our success just comes merely from just not giving up.
Yeah. There's definitely a number of times where we met, like, hey, let's go have some dinner and talk about where we're at. And it's like, man, if we don't hit certain milestones by this date, it's like, we got to think about, doing something different. And
sure.
Luckily it didn't happen, but we were definitely close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our personal credit card debt was just becoming overwhelming. And, it was just, I'm sure every business that is successful will talk about the time they bet the farm. And we were certainly no different than any other success story where we were continually betting the farm and betting our, borrowed from family members as well, just to keep the doors open. Mm-hmm. But in 2017, we were able to pick up an industrial ball valve manufacturer that did plastic injection molded ball valve components, and they were growing very rapidly and restructuring their business. So they went from doing everything internally to outsourcing a lot of their machine components. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the first monthly billable job that we could kind of count on. So that moved the needle considerably, getting that one account. And then we were working with another existing company that CNR kind of handed us that did delivery systems for mass spectrometers, which is in the medical industry.
Okay.
So very precise. That gave us a lot of credibility and a lot of experience doing complex parts with, they got scrutinized a lot because, one thing we've learned in this industry is it's not so much if you can do the work, it's can you prove that you did the work correctly. So their quality system, incoming quality was, at the time, very, cumbersome for us to overcome, given our quality system. It was just Brian and I checking our own parts. And we had that manufacturer's rep across the parking lot from us that had a CMM system. And we relied on them to do some outsourced inspection for us. And we were able to grow the account. So between that and the ball valve manufacturer kind of started to turn the corner a little bit. We hired our first employee at that time, just somebody to help do the production work and alleviate some of Brian and I's time. Okay. So that was a learning experience. You never do that correctly the first time, like anything else we've ever done in life.
Sure. And that was around 2017 or so, or 18?
Yeah, right around the winter.
2016 or right, 2015 is when we hired our first employee.
Okay.
We only had one employee up until 2017.
Yeah.
Got it. Right.
And then in 2017, I was, just kind of wanted to reach out to our contact at CNR and talk to him about some of our next steps, because we've kind of always put them on a tier above where we were at, and somebody we kind of aspired to emulate. Mm-hmm. And we took him out to lunch, and he kind of was voicing his opinion on maybe looking to make a change in his career and getting back into doing more of the job shop type industry work. And he had some military customers that he had good relationships with. So long story short, we came to a mutual agreement within about 6 weeks, and he was onboarded into our company, and we shared a piece of the company with him, and
gave him some equity.
Really just moved the needles. It was by far the best decision we've made in our business career was partnering with Chris.
Okay. And Chris is still with you today.
Yeah. And just the experience he brought within the whole industry. I mean, he grew up, his dad had a shop in California. I don't know that they had CNC machines, but he had a manufacturing facility. Mm-hmm. So just growing up in manufacturing, he ran CNR for a number of years. So dealing directly with the customers. So just in dealing with the employees, so just the industry knowledge that he was able to bring is just definitely helped accelerate our business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you guys feel like you learned? Sounds that whole story is sounds like it's sort of founded in just an incredible amount of grit. You guys just had grit, just grind it through, mm-hmm. push hard, Did you get some of that from the racing industry? Like, I know we talked about that recently. I mean, I think it does, because I think one thing that racing teaches you is how to lose, because, mm-hmm. Even the best drivers, if you win 20 or 30% of the time, you're doing phenomenal, yeah. So even then you're losing 70 or 80% of the time. And we weren't the best, so we lost more than that. But so I think it just teaches you that, to just keep going and keep grinding, mm-hmm. And just that your win is, the next race away. So, sure. It's just around the corner of success. So mm-hmm. you just got to keep trying. Got it. Was that also?
We definitely took our passion from motorsports and everything, pouring everything we had into that portion of our lives at that time in our life, right. And applied that to being successful in this industry.
Yeah.
That correlates as well. I think recruiting kind of, you're always trying to find help in the racing industry, whether it be a partner for financial reasons or crew members. So it's kind of your first mini experience at business, mm-hmm. and trying to get other people to buy into your dream, so to speak. Definitely kind of laid the footprint on recruiting and selling yourself correlates to the existing business.
Yeah. So the other thing that I mentioned at the very beginning that's always impressed me is just sort of like the brand that you guys have built. Beautiful facility. Really clearly, you care about having it be clean and painted floors. And just, is that also from your racing background? I know in some racing circles like NASCAR, that they look like laboratories. The shops you can mm-hmm. eat off the floors. Was that kind of the expectation you just had from yourself, or that from racing, or was that just your personalities or
Both. I think both. Yeah.
Both. I mean, our personalities, we're very much the cleanly, organized, first class operation. We always want to show well with our motorsport stuff, but I think everything we've kind of done in life, we want to do first class, or at least as first class as our budget would allow us to do.
Sure.
And our family's business was always represented very well. And, when people pulled into their facility, it was, a step above whatever competition that they had. So, I can't remember the exact quote, but the people remember a certain percentage of what they heard, a certain percentage of what they saw, 100% of how they felt.
Yeah. So
we wanted people to feel like they had this is the best place they could possibly partner with to do their manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that must translate to employees as well.
Yeah, since I gave up motorsports for a hobby, I kind of transitioned into liking college football. And definitely we use the college football approach when it comes to a facility standpoint. And, not just rely on paying somebody necessarily a buck more than the next guy down the road. We want to treat them well, give them the opportunities to grow and excel, and keep continually growing the business so people have places to grow to. Because if you're not growing your business, they don't have places to advance and move up the ladder because those positions don't get created. So we want to create a very hyper growth atmosphere where everybody can win. So if the company's winning, they have opportunities to grow with the company, and they got promote. And we always try and promote from within. So, and we have a proven track record of that. So, some of our lead programmers right now, it's kind of our first group of lead programmers that started at the bottom, not knowing anything about machining, that have worked up through the chains of our company and now are the lead programmers.
I like that. That's nice. How, besides giving them opportunities for advancement into higher roles, what else do you guys do on sort of the culture side to just make OCD a great place to work?
One of the things we started was Monday morning meetings, just to kind of let everybody know, hey, we got a customer coming in this week. Try to keep the shop clean. Just try to get them a little bit more behind the scenes look of like what we're doing as a company. As we started interviewing more and more people, we ask them, well, why are you leaving where you're at? And they're like, well, I just don't really feel like I know what's going on. So that was, something that was important to us, just to kind of try to be as transparent as we can. Mm-hmm. And then as these meetings have evolved, it's, continual improvement type stuff, and going over some different things we can improve on that we go over with guys, but just, kind of a company awareness with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really boils down to just the fundamentals. I mean, if you want, not to say we never do pizza parties or lunches or anything like that, and not that that's not important, which it is important, but it's the day-to-day culture that, keeping them being as transparent with as much as the business growth, and who's not only as a customer walking in, but who is the customer, what's the growth potential with them. We try and be as transparent as we possibly can, without, obstructing any NDAs or anything that might be in place.
Of course.
But, being fair and doing what we say we're going to do. I think a lot of companies, not just in our industry, have a lot of empty promises. So if we say we were going to commit to something, we commit to it and follow through with it. So I think it's the basics of, communication and integrity that, if you don't have them, none of the other stuff is going to matter. It's not going to overcome them basic ideologies.
Yeah. Do you guys have published core values?
I guess not. I mean,
not so to speak.
Not written down, but it sounds like those two at least are sort of foremost, in your thinking, in the collective thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we all dress alike. We're very team oriented here. Go back to the college football approach. We want people to feel like they're a part of the team and not working as an individual. Mm-hmm. We strive to have a culture that's, not compartmentalized. So somebody that's running a program out in the shop, the way our flow chart is and everything like that, as far as how we process work, it's hard to hide notes and things like that to where you can't. And ProShop assists with that with our ERP system. But, we don't want people to be trying keep notes for themselves to benefit themselves personally. It's
we've heard of so many
team time, not me time.
Yeah, I've heard of so many different shops that, there's one guy that will run, a project, and he's got his offset notes or different notes to make the part run good. And if he doesn't run it, then somebody else gets it, and then they struggle, because they don't have his notes. And we've kind of from the very beginning, like, no, we're a team. And if you're not on the team, then you're not going to fit in here, a lot of we've heard of different shops also where, the mill guys don't get along with the lathe guys, or, they're real adversarial towards the quality department. And we just don't really allow that here, because we're all on the same team. We're all trying to win. Yeah. And you have to work together to achieve that.
And in order to do that, in order to keep that culture, sometimes you got to let go of somebody that's very talented. Because if you're going to preach that ideology that you're going to work together, without following through with eliminating somebody that won't buy into the system, no matter what their talent level is, you kind of lost your integrity. So that's the job that us owners and Chris have to make, as far as, when is somebody not on board and part of the solution, even though they might have the resume, so to speak. But, if they don't want to move with the rest of the team, you got to make that tough decision.
Yeah. The other thing we do is we provide shirts and sweatshirts and things like that. So, we're all showing up looking on the same team also, so within the customers, we feel like, notice that also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had sort of a Pro CNC. We also had shirts and had sort of a dress code of, what was appropriate attire, and tried to foster that same team spirit. So speaking of transparency, are you guys sort of financially, do you have open book? Do you tell them how the company's doing financially and things like that, or some amount of it, or?
Not the specific numbers.
Not the specific numbers. With the key management personnel, we're open as far as sharing with them how the company's looking financially.
Got it.
But with the shop floor, we give them metrics as far as how close we met our goal, and then if we exceeded that goal. So It's not specific numbers, but they know if we're hitting our targeted goal from a dollar value standpoint, but not knowing the actual dollar value.
Sure. Okay.
And then we share with them scrap rates. So dollar amounts, how that counts.
Yeah.
With the scrap rates, so they do know some of the dollars.
Yeah. And do you do any kind of profit sharing plan or bonus incentive based on the company performance?
You're assuming we have profit.
I am assuming that, which is probably a safe assumption given I've seen your facility, but a plan like that?
No, not currently. Nothing specific. I mean, I'm sure it's probably something as the larger we get, the more structured we'll become. But as of now, we're still, run it as a small business, and the ones that contribute the most get raises accordingly.
Yeah, of course.
We kind of, as we get a little bigger and more structured, now we do yearly reviews with everybody, but we've kind of now changed that to we do it just 4 times a year during the quarter that they were hired, so that we're not trying to do a review every other day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we've prided ourselves that we've done in the past where we've given somebody a raise, I think 3 times in 1 year, just because he was really excelling and doing an awesome job. So we wanted to, make sure that they were compensated for it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we actually haven't talked about what the business looks like today, but how many folks do you have? How many machines? What's the snapshot of what the company looks like today?
Go ahead.
So, we're up to 67 employees.
Wow.
We run it across 3 shifts, and then 22 machines between our lathes and mills.
Okay. 22 machines, 3 shifts.
And then we do have a fabrication department also. So we've got a 8010 CNC press brake in there, and do TIG welding of components.
Got it. And you guys started in 2013, is that what you said?
2014.
2014. So
was
10
our
years.
official start. But
So
we didn't really
10-year-old.
get our equipment until almost 2015 as far as doing actually any work.
Got it.
I think we officially started the LLC at the end of April in 2014. Ordered our machines from Haas, and of course that was one of their big. They were really growing that year, so they were way behind their normal pace. So I think their machines showed up in July, I think. So yeah, but I mean, we weren't really producing anything until close to the end of the year.
Got it. So really just 10 years in business or so.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal to get to that size. That's awesome. And you guys let's talk about your approach for buying machines and what types of machines. Do you buy them when you see an opportunity in the market, or you have an actual job that like needs this type, or how do you, and even the type, I know you've been like moving into nicer and nicer, more capable machines over time.
So yes to all them questions, all them examples. We, like any shop that starts out with, Haas's, they're limited on the amount of complexity and rigidity that that specific brand can be efficient at. We still have our Haas VF2 today. It's still on the shop floor producing parts. So there's always a place for them. But as we grew into more of the aerospace and exotic metals and needing to stay diverse, when we partnered with Mazak, we really looked at their geographical location to our shop and how to service, who could service our specific Indianapolis area the best as far as, partners that we were going to grow with. And they checked a lot of the boxes. And then, as we grew with the Mazak brand, there were some things we liked and some things we didn't like about, the relationship. So we diversified, and Brian does a really good job of keeping tabs of the whole machine tool market on who's got machines in inventory. What's their ideology as far as service goes? Is it from a dealership standpoint? Is it from the factory? Because all them things come into play when you have a problem, and the relationship's only as good as when there's a problem. Right. Just like our relationship to our customers, that's when you can really make or break the partnership. Yes to all them questions. We look at price, inventory, service, sense of urgency. How big is the partner? Are we relevant to them? Like one of the things I'll say about Kitamura is they're not nearly as large from a sales of machine tools in North America compared to a Mazak or a Akuma or Haas. So we feel like we're more relevant of a customer to them.
Got it. So,
when we ask for a ask, they seem to be more responsive and more willing to bend to make a problem, when there's a problem, to come up with a solution for us.
Right. And
and like early on, I think, we bought those first 2 machines. I think our third machine we bought a VF4 with a 5-axis trunnion on it.
Oh, nice.
And then, so realizing there that, 5-axis was definitely the way to go. I mean, as you know, with 3-axis machines, you're multiple setups, making multiple fixtures or soft jaws. And, 5-axis machining was definitely our philosophy from there on. So most of the machines from moving forward was 5-axis mills. And then, since then though, like I said, with the Kitamura has gotten into the horizontal machines, which has been awesome with having the dual pallets on them, the productivity there just goes way up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think you also have some more sort of mill turn, sort of multi-axis turning as well.
Yeah. Our sales guy that we were friends with at Haas, going back, he was, I had met him when I was working at Beast Race Cars. He was really good friends with my boss's son-in-law, which was Jason Leffler. And he, ran in NASCAR for many years and ran midgets and sprint cars. So we had, we kind of had that relationship with him, more than just being a customer. But he went on his own and started his own machine tool company, and he partnered up with Dynamic Machine Tools, and they started the Smart Machine Tool brand. So yeah, now all of our lathes in the shop are all Smart machines.
Okay.
So they're, really good box way, rigid. So they've been a good partnership with them.
Got it. And have you guys gotten into more, you mentioned exotics. Is that kind of what your specialty is, hard metals and things like that?
I don't know if you'd say our specialty, but we do everything under the sun. As you're starting out, it's, people are always asked, oh, can you machine this? And they're like, oh yeah, we can machine that. And, then we get back to the shop and we're like, well, how do we machine that? So you get online and get on Practical Machinists and see what they say. And, you make it happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're in the aerospace and space world. We're doing a lot of exotic metals and, titanium, stainless. We really nothing really, I would say, scares us at this point.
Sure. So, all right, I want to talk about your growth. I mean, going, in barely 10 years from, 2 folks to 67, I think you said, and clearly working for aerospace and space and some, bigger name companies. What is your approach? That's pretty phenomenal growth for a machine shop, quite honestly. So what is are you just really sales and marketing driven? Do you, and I do want to get into how you even hire that many folks. Obviously you're in a pretty big market, Indianapolis, but still, let's talk about the sales and marketing side, and then we'll talk about the employee recruitment side.
We put learning from our family's business. They also had a e-ductor truck business outside of the construction business, and they grew that. That's probably more, from a flow chart standpoint and a growth standpoint, more relatable to our business than their construction business. But always an emphasis on sales and marketing, market share, showing well, and it's a moving target. As you develop as a company, your marketing tools change as well. Just like your machine lineup becomes more complex and robust, your sales and marketing kind of grows with it. And we've made mistakes in the past of, trying to hire just frankly the wrong people that didn't perform well or wanted to take the company in a different direction than what we envisioned it going in. And, you can try and stick with it and make it work. But I think we do a pretty good job of, when the inevitable seems to be presented in front of us, we don't try and force something that's just doesn't feel right moving forward. So we've made changes quick. We hire quick and have made changes quick in the other direction as well. So, but when we do get a successful partnership with a client and a customer and the processes in place, they usually stick around. The last thing you want to do is not develop your current customer base. So we pride ourselves on long-term relationships and continued growth with our customers. But everybody's selling the company, from and anybody in management's always selling. So whether it's farming for existing customers, email campaigns for marketing tools, we used to outsource all of our email campaigns as far as that side of the business goes. Now we've brought that internally. Mm-hmm. We have a marketing guy that is very familiar with our industry as a whole, never really sold machining services, but he sold machine tools and things like that. So he's very familiar with that side of the business. And so good at sales and marketing, because I feel like those really cross over continually. Yeah. So I think just hyper focus on it. Probably spent more for things that didn't work out than probably a lot of our competitors, but it's the first thing that generates any sort of income is sales. So without sales, the rest of us don't eat. Yeah. We understand that, and definitely put a higher emphasis on it than we feel like our competitors do.
Got it. What you mentioned email marketing. Where do you even get a big enough email list to do email marketing? Is it just collecting business cards, networking, or how do you go about doing that?
Well, without giving away all of our secrets, there's programs out there that will compare companies in certain industries, and you can cross-reference. For example, if you had a prime DoD contractor, who's their competitors, and there's software out there that will give you that information on who the competitors are, and lists of whatever titles that you're potentially looking to engage with at that company.
Right.
So it'll do automatic email chains to different industries or companies, and so we've seen some success with that.
Cool. And it's just cold outreach and just trying to get a phone call, get an appointment, get a foot in the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cold outreach, and the world that we live in with all of our potential clients is probably the slowest sales process that we've ever heard of.
Okay.
Because it's just the nature of the business that we're in. You're from the time you first make that first initial contact, it might be a year to 18 months before you're really doing any substantial billing with that new customer.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of strategy and just kind of gut intuition on which ones you want to spend all your resources on developing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where Brian and I have done a really good job, as well as, talking over with Chris, who are we going to spend our resources on developing from a customer standpoint in our focus, because you can get overwhelmed growing customers that just aren't going to grow with you.
Sure. And how do you go about growing the customers that you do have? Do you go visit them frequently and ask them about new part numbers, or do you have a strategy for just internal growth of those clients?
Perform is the first and foremost. You have to perform.
I remember we went to a local get together with they had like some people from Rolls-Royce and some other primes around in the area, and there was a sales guy from another bigger job shop in the area, and so we were trying to pick his brain and talk to him, and like, how do you get in at a place like Rolls-Royce or whatever. And I remember one of the things he says, well, when the ball's thrown into your court, then knock it out of the park. So we always kind of took that to heart as, mm-hmm. when you get that opportunity, then you got to perform.
Yeah.
That was his little way of not telling us anything.
Sure.
Yeah. But, back to your question, just never letting complacency become a habit. So always making the customers important, and the relevancy to being important to us is always our first and foremost from an ideological standpoint, because that's the last thing we'd ever want is to have a partner that believed in us feel like we're not believing in them. So, they're passionate about, all of our customers and partners in business are passionate about what they do. So if we're not passionate about their product line, that's not a very good partner for them. So we get passionate about learning about their culture, their industry, and, want to be as knowledgeable as we can about how can we further help them be a solution provider for anything that might need a solution for in manufacturing. So even if even if we're not a direct resource to fix the problem, at least within our manufacturing network, we can help them out, find them resources, or manage. Sometimes we even manage products that aren't even associated with machining, just to help the partnership.
But yeah, well, occasionally Mitch and I will, we just got back from a trip out in the Seattle area that visited, a couple customers that we have, just to go have a face-to-face with them. There's other times where, project managers might do visits. It's not necessarily always just, Mitch and I, so we do whatever we feel like is the best, person to go if it does make a visit or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So obviously some of the industries that you serve require quality certifications. Can you share a little bit about your journey of when you got what and how that went?
Go ahead.
Yeah. What was it? When we moved into this building in 2018, we got connected with a guy from another shop that was involved doing a lot of work for an aerospace company down in Cincinnati. But he was super switched on with, he'd done a ton of project management himself as well as sales, and super switched on with the quality side of things. So he helped us write our first quality manual and got us AS certified that year. In 2018 was our first year that we got certified with AS.
You went straight
Previously, Mitch and I, when it was just the two of us, we hired a guy that's what he did was help shops like us get like ISO certified. So Mitch and I got ISO certified a couple of years before that. We learned pretty quickly, getting the door slammed in our face, that if we weren't ISO certified, they wouldn't even, answer a phone call, because that was just an easy out for potential customers. So we did that pretty early on, but with only two people to get ISO certified is not super complicated. But yeah, Scott got us AS certified, and then he also helped us in business development at the time also that got us in with some aerospace companies. So kind of kickstarted us in that direction.
Got it. Nice.
And then we got ITAR registered, all the welding certifications kind of comes as the business opportunities formulate, because you can get overwhelmed just going out and getting certified for those sort of certificates. But after you've done it enough, it's not very cumbersome to just go get another version of a spec. And then recently, we've been doing more medical component work up until recently, and that opened the door up into we should probably at least think about getting 1345. And then it really made a good business case since we're doing so much more of the components that we could start doing more in-body stuff. So at least to get that opportunity, we needed to be 1345. And I don't know, I guess 3, 4, 5 months ago, started the process at the beginning of the year and got approved about 4 months ago.
Oh, congratulations. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then Chris has been real instrumental getting ahead of the CMMC requirements. So he's been working on that, probably a couple of years now, seeing that was going to be coming down the pike. So we're, CMMC stage 2, I think, or level 2 compliant, but still, there's nobody out there that audits, to actually get that cert on the wall yet. Yeah. So, but once that's out there, then we'll be ready for it.
Oh, good for you guys. Yeah. With the final ruling now in place, it's going to be hot and heavy once the auditors are ready, and shops are going to be lining up to get audited, and most of them won't be ready to audit. So good for you for getting there already. So let's talk about the employee side. You obviously have talked about, you are decisive. If you realize you don't have someone that's a great fit, you may help them move along to a different spot. But so even knowing that, and you're at 67 people, you've hired a lot of folks. Where do you find them? How do you recruit them? How do you onboard them?
Well, everybody complains about it, but nobody really does anything about it. So, that's the number one pain point we feel, and from other shops that we talk to, is how do you find employees? And then, our customers, it's one of their biggest concerns is how are we going to keep up with the labor pool in order to service them? And it's a good question, because a lot of people do not put the emphasis that we do on recruiting like they should, which I'm glad they don't, because it benefits us. But I spend personally an absorbent amount of time being marketing on the internet job postings, LinkedIn, any online service that you can think of, we're pretty much a part of. We partner with 3 different vocational schools throughout Indiana and surrounding areas. We have recently partnered with a high school that Pro Shops integrated with in Southern Indiana.
Eagle Manufacturing, yeah.
So that's been a good positive recruiting ground. And then fortunately, being in the Midwest, there's a little bit more emphasis on high school programs that are giving kids the opportunity to at least be exposed to CNC machining. So it at least puts the bug in their ear. So the area we're in is a little bit more robust as far as the amount of people that are exposed to the industry as a whole. So that's a positive given our geographical location. But, we put a lot of resources on it. The facility that we built, it's, LED lit, climate controlled, non-smoking, team-like atmosphere, and emphasis on a growing business. So, anybody that wants to advance their career with the same company, we give them the opportunity to do that here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is your workforce pretty young, I would expect then?
That is when customers walk through, that's one of the things that they mention is, that they talk about how clean the shop is, and how young the workforce is they're really impressed with, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Being a completely paperless facility, and we try and not shy away from technology, and you try and use it to our advantage. It seems to appeal to the younger workforce better. The millennial stigmatism that's out there. The one thing that everybody will agree on is millennials are very computer savvy, and if they're not exposed to things that they're familiar with, they're going to shy away from it. So we try and make things as familiar as possible. Cool does still matter in this world. So, if we do things that are cool and move the needle a little bit in the right direction of appeal, it makes a difference. So, we continually try and be, for lack of a better term, cool. Brian does a really good job of sourcing all of our work holding and doing things efficiently, because we've worked for people too. And the last thing you want to do when you're working for somebody doing a project is, I don't know why we're doing it like this, because it'd be a lot more efficient if we did it like this.
Right.
And, so if you're not being efficient, using things as efficiently as possible and exposing them to what seems to be the best solution for the job, it'd be hard to retain who we have.
Mm-hmm.
So
staying up to date, like on all of our CAD CAM software, and I think one thing that's a little different that we do also is, all of our programming computers are on the shop floor. So they're spread out, on the workbenches throughout the floor in between all the machines. So it's not just one or two guys in a room programming for out on the floor. So everybody kind of gets the opportunity to be able to work with, with the CAD CAM system. So, if they have the ambition, it's all there for them, to learn and use.
I like that. Yeah. I'll encourage people to check out your website, because you have some nice videos, and the dual monitors right there, right on the shop floor. It definitely is a world-class operation. You've talked a few times about sort of the continuous improvement mindset or concepts. Do you guys have a formal lean program, or how do you instill that into your everyday work?
In the last year or so, we've started a meeting on Friday afternoons. Literally, it's called a continuous improvement meeting. So we pull in, all of our managers from the front office, plus more of our lead programmers on the shop floor, and then each week we'll pull in somebody different from the floor also, just to so they can get their input if they have any from their side, because they're the ones working every day that's on the stuff we're trying to improve. So, obviously you want the guys that are, doing the work to have some input on it. But, we do that every Friday. And just, whatever it might be, whether it's something in purchasing that needs to, that's a problem to get, run more smoothly, or something with work holding, or, hey, we're having trouble on some production part, hitting a certain tolerance, what do we got to do different? Is it different tooling, different approach on, how it's programmed, or, everybody kind of gets their input, and it's definitely helped a lot.
And what is the actual like tactical mechanism for then implementing those improvement ideas or collecting them? I mean, does someone write them down? Do you then assign them to people? How does that part work?
Yeah, for sure. We use a program. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Loop, Microsoft product. So yeah, we assign it to whoever is going to be implementing it. And then, the next week and put a time frame on it for when it needs to be implemented, but, put ownership to it and try to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Do you give them an actual, budget for things they need to buy, or do you do ROI, sort of back the napkin calculations?
I wouldn't say we're that far along with,
Okay.
on ROI, but I think most of the stuff that we do in the shop, we're hands on enough to where we know if it's moving the needle one way or the other. We kind of have our pulse on that pretty good, but yeah, I mean, following different metrics and stuff is something that as we grow, is getting implemented more and more to try to track things. And Chris implemented one of the things we started here recently was tracking our first articles. So like if somebody, submits the first piece into quality, what's our success? Is that, is the first piece good or is it not good? So we're starting to track our first article success rate internally. So that's just one of the things we've implemented, but, so yeah, it's just everything every day is always, what can we do to do better and be more successful?
And do you feel like your I don't know, commitment to that has really trickled down, and like your team is just like bought in that they're always thinking about new ways to do things and not afraid to bring suggestions to you guys or their leaders or their managers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from the very beginning, when we hire people, we try to emphasize that, we're an open door policy, and if we're doing something on the floor that this doesn't make sense to you, don't be afraid to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there might be a reason we're doing that and we can explain it, the word might not make sense to them at the time, but yeah, I mean, we definitely, want the open collaboration, between everybody in the shop, to try to get better. And I feel like we do a pretty good job at it.
Nice.
Yeah, creating that sense of, back to the retaining employees, that sense of ownership for their job.
Mm-hmm.
I use the analogy that the Navy SEALs use, which is by far the most elite team in the world. They don't really have a team lead. I might be butchering this a little bit, but whoever is the most relevant for the actual situation, whether it's radio guy or a bomb expert or an ammunitions expert or whatever, that's right. The most relevant person. Whoever's the most relevant person for the situation is the lead. And we definitely emphasize, take charge when it's time for when you're the most relevant for the job. Mm-hmm. Take the lead and be the leader in that particular part of the business.
Got it. I like that. That's a great concept. So you mentioned, oh boy, just escaped me. Let's talk about tenure. You mentioned tenure. So some of your lead programmers now started on the shop floor. Sounds like with pretty much no machining experience or no programming experience.
Mm-hmm.
How do you promote? Do you provide them external classes, or how is it all just sort of internally self-taught? How do you go about getting that learning, and how does that equate to tenure and longevity of your employees?
I'd say mostly internally. I think one of them was one of our early employees on that plastic injection ball valve stuff. I mean, mm-hmm. We were doing 600 pieces a day per shift on a machine, so it was definitely a door slammer job. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the kid came in and had never been in a machine shop before and just was interested in it, and so we put him on that. And he did that for about a year before he got an opportunity to move on to a different machine and try some different things. But he's just progressed throughout the years. We've just given him, more and more opportunity, and he's done work on his own of, staying a little late to, practice, whether it's CAD CAM stuff, asking a lot of questions. He talks about, watching YouTube videos and whether I worked with him or he's working with other guys, on the floor, just everybody sharing their knowledge. And now he's doing, our most complex 5-axis parts. So
that's fantastic.
And then one of our other lead programmers, he knew SolidWorks a little bit, but had never been in a machine shop. So same thing, started on that plastic, the plastic ball valve job, and kind of just worked them way up from there. So, if they got the ambition and they show, have the great attitude and they want to learn, and we try to give them all the opportunities, to do more.
Got it.
One thing that's different now, in the last 10 years than it probably was the 10 years before that, is the amount of information that's on the internet, to self-teach yourself. So as you come up to an obstacle during the job throughout the day, you can go home at night, and if you got the ambition, you can probably go find your own answer. If not, there's a resource here that you can lean on to get the answer. But the ability to self-teach yourself with the internet, with Titans of CNC and all the other numerous different machine outlets there are, it's really a wealth of information that wasn't, that the generation before us didn't have access to. Mm-hmm. So, kind of going back to the football analogy of Nick Saban, which is one of my heroes in life, I guess. He always preached that, high achievers don't want to work with mediocre achievers or low achievers, and low achievers don't want to work with high achievers. So you have to surround your organization with if you want high achievers, you got to surround them with other high achievers. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job of just creating a culture of high achievers and excellence, and people that want to be better, want to not only better themselves, but better the company, and buy into the system.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Sort of like attracts like, on the good
Mm-hmm.
side and the bad side. So,
Another football analogy I always go back to is Bill Belichick is, the next man up, so going back to having the programming stations on the shop floor, like we didn't want to be pigeonholed with one programmer to program for the whole shop. And if they leave, then now what do you do? So that's where we're trying to make it as diverse as possible. And, we have our lead guys, so to speak, but, we've had it, several of them, move on to other opportunities, and, we always have, the next one, to step up and, kind of take their role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. No, having too few resources and too few people is definitely a very risky proposition. So, I know we're getting close to time. I did want to ask you, before we have you share information about your company and how people reach out to you. You're running 3 shifts. That's a hard thing to do, and not a lot of shops can pull that off. What do you think that allows you to run 3 shifts successfully?
Well, we definitely have our challenges with it also. But yeah, communication, the biggest thing is just communication. It's so we just try to emphasize that. We have emails, each lead on second shift and third shift, they send out an email at the end of the night, and kind of from each project they're working on, or each person, how'd the night go? Did they have to replace any tools, or, the more information, the better. We always try to have them share, so that we don't walk in the next morning and be like, well, what the heck happened? So that's, definitely gotten better and better. Like we talked, how we use ProShop, we try to implement, the more notes in there, the better, for setup notes or anything else that's relevant with the job, that we can use that to our advantage. But no, it's a struggle. It's something we talk about with, our continuous improvement meetings. How do we have better handoff notes? Do we need to come up with a checklist for, for each shift of, right, on the machine they're running, is it figure out, bullet points that they can fill out that better informs the next shift, how the job's running. So that's always trying to improve.
Yeah. Do those second and third shifts, do they start on days to get sort of embedded in and then move to those off shifts?
Typically we start them on day shift and And when we onboard somebody, we put them with one of the more experienced guys on the shop floor, and they work with them probably at least a couple of weeks, getting to know our ERP system, getting to know our CAD CAM software, just where all the tools are in the shop, so we just they shadow, a more experienced guy for, however long we feel is necessary. I mean, sometimes it might only be a week if somebody's, had some more experience before, or, sometimes it's longer if it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
It's definitely one of the things that I feel it's gotten easier as we've grown. When we were first starting, even 5 years ago, with the second shift and then eventually a third shift, everything was development. I mean, we weren't doing very rarely were we doing anything with any volume. And to try and develop a process without the support of management on second shift was just extremely cumbersome. So we try and process out as much as we can on day shift with the support of quality and management, engineers on staff, and then just for the most part try and keep the spindles running on second and third shift with processes that have already been proven. Yeah. But somehow we always seem to find problems.
And we do a 30-minute overlap with each shift also. So, so they got 30 minutes to, come in and work together, so it's not just, passing each other as one's coming in, the other one's going out, so try to, overlap the shifts there so they can communicate in person as much as they can beyond just whatever notes, in our systems.
Yeah, that's pretty key. We did that too. So are your shifts 3 8-hour shifts, 24/5, like 24/5?
We do our first shift is 5 days a week, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Our second shift runs 4 days a week. So they do Monday through Thursday night, and they come in at 3:30 and work until 12:30. Mm-hmm. So they're working 9-hour shifts. So they work 36 hours, but for a premium, we pay them for 40.
Yep.
And then third shift, they come in Sunday night at 11 and work until 7:30. And then the rest of the week,
so they work 5
days. So they work 5 days, but then the rest of the week, they'll come in at midnight and work until 7:30.
Okay.
So shorter shifts, 7-hour shifts. But then same thing, work 36. We pay them for 40 as a premium.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's a creative and probably very effective schedule. I like that. Well, awesome, guys. Just to wrap this up, obviously what I think you've built is pretty inspiring for those shops that are maybe earlier on in their journey. You've dropped a lot of just knowledge and wisdom over, about what you've done over these years. But if you just kind of wrap up what you think your most important secrets or success are to grow, to 67 folks in less than 10 years, and to have the company you have, what advice would you give a newer shop, a younger shop?
I would say, don't be afraid to take the risk with a customer that, you think might have some legs. I think, if, they're growing and the opportunity is there, that's what you got to capitalize on. That's what I feel like our success, as a whole, if I had to narrow it down to one sales pitch, is we'll grow with your company. And whether it's a development part that is going to be hitting the market and in a medical device, and if it exceeds our customers' sales expectations, we're gonna ramp up and we're gonna grow and we're gonna meet your delivery needs as quickly as we can humanly move. As far as getting equipment on the floor and ramped up, we won't let you down. That the customer is always the most important aspect of any business. And deliver if you say you're going to deliver, make sure you're going to deliver. And if you're not, give them as much forewarning as possible so they can plan accordingly. But we grow with our customers, and I think we do a really good job of growing fast if need be, or becoming finding the most efficient way to manufacture or specifically machine a part for their particular industry or problem.
Sounds like a winning strategy. Awesome. Well, if people are out there and want to learn more about OCD, how should they go about doing that?
You go to our website. That's the easiest way, and submit a form if you're looking for becoming part of the team. My email is on my LinkedIn, and I stay as unhidden as anybody. Obscurity is obviously any business's biggest restriction. So if you go to my LinkedIn, I got all my cell phone and email and accessible under my contacts. So get a hold of Brian or myself, or submit a form through the website.
Yeah, OlsonCustomDesigns.com.
Okay. And I know everyone's probably wondering this, and I have always wondered this. The name of the company and the shortened version of it, that's got to be intentional.
Definitely a play on words.
Okay.
If you remember, American Chopper, when they were on TV, I was a big fan of that. And, they had the OCC with Orange County Choppers. And then, when Paul Jr. started his, he did the PJD. So I always kind of wanted to do something like that. So just we spitball different ideas around, but kind of landed on OCD because I think it kind of fits for our industry for sure.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to really pigeonhole ourselves into being just a machine shop or just a fabrication shop.
Right.
And, we wanted to be able to diversify and not have our name really restrict us.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Obviously, congrats on all the success. It's not luck, clearly a ton of hard work, but I appreciate you guys sharing your secrets of success and sharing it with the audience. So just thank you so much. Appreciate it. And
all right. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.